12 million users, one-star system, and then silence. This isn't a history lesson. This is a forensic look at how the king of African social media hit a wall. You're watching XBIR. Before WhatsApp dominated everything, before Instagram became a lifestyle, and before Facebook fully took over mobile conversations in Africa, there was an app that felt like a revolution in your pocket. Its name was 2Go. 2Go was a mobile social messaging application designed primarily for feature phones and early smartphones. It was built for the phones millions of people across Africa were actually using, not expensive iPhones, but simple Nokia-style phones with limited internet. The platform was created by 2Go Interactive in South Africa around 2007. The goal: solve networking on low-end phones with unstable internet. And it worked. 2Go allowed users to chat in real time, join public rooms, and add friends without needing expensive hardware. Unlike Western apps, 2Go did rely on broadband. It was built for mobile-first users in emerging markets, making it uniquely powerful. While it started in South Africa, the app found its biggest audience in Nigeria, where it became more than just a messaging app. For many, it was a first experience of online chat, a social identity, and a digital escape long before Instagram became common. At its peak, 2Go wasn't just an app. It felt like a movement, and at that time, it seemed unstoppable. But this is only where the story begins. By the early 2010s, something unusual was happening across African mobile phones, especially in countries like Nigeria, Kenya, Ghana, and South Africa. If you walked into a school, a cyber CAF, a university hostel, or even a busy bus stop, you would hear the same thing. Do you have 2Go? It wasn't a global brand like Facebook or Twitter. It wasn't backed by Silicon Valley money. Yet somehow, it became one of the most addictive digital spaces on the continent. The timing was perfect. At that moment, smartphones were still expensive, data was limited, and mobile internet access was often slow or unstable. But millions of people already had one thing in their hands: basic internet-enabled mobile phones, and 2Go fit that world perfectly. Unlike traditional social networks that required heavy data usage or computers, 2Go was lightweight. It ran on Java-based phones. This meant even low-cost devices could install it. That single design choice quietly unlocked access for millions of people. One of the biggest reasons 2Go spread so fast was its public chat room system. These rooms were chaotic, unpredictable, and extremely engaging. You never knew who would join the conversation. For many young users, this was their first exposure to online anonymity. People could reinvent themselves completely. While 2Go had users across Africa, Nigeria became its strongest growth engine. In the early 2010s, Nigerian youth culture was rapidly merging with mobile technology. 2Go became a bridge between offline and digital interaction. At its peak, reports described millions of registered users, with Nigeria representing a massive portion of its activity. The design of 2Go also played a major psychological role. It had constant chat notifications and live room activity. It created a social hierarchy inside rooms. It felt like a live digital space that never slept. For many users, 2Go became part of a daily routine. Wake up, school breaks, evening conversations, and late-night chats with strangers. Even while 2Go was growing rapidly, the mobile internet world was changing. A new wave of smartphones was entering the market. Global apps like WhatsApp were starting to expand aggressively. 2Go was about to face something much bigger than itself. But at this point in the story, 2Go was still rising, unaware that the internet itself was about to evolve past it. Part 1. What is 2Go, the app that quietly took over African phones? Before WhatsApp dominated everything, before Instagram became a lifestyle, and before Facebook fully took over mobile conversations in Africa, there was an app that felt like a revolution in your pocket. Its name was 2Go. 2Go was a mobile social networking and instant messaging application designed primarily for feature phones and early smartphones. In simple terms, it was built for the kind of phones millions of people across Africa were actually using in the late 2000s and early 2010s. Not expensive iPhones or high-end Android devices, but simple Nokia-style phones with limited internet access. The platform was created by a company known as 2Go Interactive, which originated in South Africa around the mid to late 2000s. From the beginning, the idea was not to compete with global tech giants, but to solve a very specific problem. How do you make social networking work on low-end mobile phones with unstable internet? And it worked. 2Go allowed users to chat in real time, join public chat rooms, add friends using phone numbers or usernames, send messages without needing expensive smartphones. Unlike many early Western social apps, 2Go didn't rely heavily on computers or broadband internet. Instead, it was built for mobile-first users in emerging markets, which made it uniquely powerful in these regions. But what really made 2Go special wasn't just what it was where it exploded. While it started in South Africa, the app found its biggest audience in Nigeria, where it became more than just a messaging app. For many young users, it was a first experience of online chat and a social identity platform. A place to meet strangers, flirt, and form communities. A digital escape long before Instagram or Snapchat became common. At its peak, 2Go wasn't just an app. It felt like a movement inside mobile phones, and at that time, it seemed unstoppable. But this is only where the story begins. By the time smartphones became common, 2Go was already facing a problem it could not easily solve. It was built for a world that was disappearing. The very foundation that made 2Go powerful was being replaced by a new digital reality, where Android and iOS devices were becoming the standard. The platform caught between two eras. 2Go found itself in a difficult middle position. On one side, it still had millions of users on older devices and legacy systems, where it had originally dominated. On the other side, the new generation of users was migrating to smartphones, where apps like WhatsApp offered smoother experiences. This created a dangerous gap. 2Go was still strong in the old ecosystem, but weak in the new one. And in technology, being in between eras is often more dangerous than being late. To survive, 2Go expanded beyond its original design, developing versions of the app for Android devices. But the environment had changed completely. On smartphones, users expected cleaner interfaces, faster messaging, and strong privacy. 2Go's identity was still tied to its chat room culture, something that felt increasingly outdated in a world shifting toward private messaging. The biggest emotional blow came from the decline of its iconic chat rooms, places where strangers met instantly and friendships formed quickly. But on smartphones, this model started to lose appeal. The era of the giant had come to an end. New platforms offered direct messaging instead of crowded rooms and friend-based networks instead of anonymous groups, creating more controlled social environments. As a result, the chaotic live social space that defined 2Go slowly began to empty out. What once felt like a constantly active digital crowd started to feel quieter, then inconsistent, and finally fragmented. At the same time, global apps were becoming deeply entrenched in everyday communication. WhatsApp became the default app for personal and family communication. Facebook Messenger tied communication to social identity, while BlackBerry Messenger still held influence in certain markets before its later decline. These platforms had strong global infrastructure, massive financial backing, and continuous feature development that 2Go struggled to match its scale. Most importantly, they were built for the smartphone-first world from the ground up. 2Go, by contrast, was adapting from a previous era. 2Go explored ways to remain sustainable through mobile advertising and premium features. But monetization alone could not solve the core problem. The real challenge wasn't revenue, it was relevance. Users were leaving because their digital lives were consolidating elsewhere. The decline was gradual. There was no dramatic collapse. Some users left for WhatsApp, while others shifted to Facebook. Chat rooms became less active, then irregular, then nearly silent. The network effect that made 2Go powerful began to weaken. By the mid to late 2010 seconds, 2Go is no longer the phenomenon it once was. It slowly became irrelevant in the places it once dominated. The app was still running, but the daily cultural pulse that once made 2Go feel alive had largely moved on. 2Go did not disappear, it decentralized into silence. Infrastructure still exists, but the culture does not. And in social networking, culture is everything. WhatsApp offered private group chats and phone number-based identity. Once schools and workplaces adopted it, it became unavoidable. Social media ecosystems consolidated. Facebook and Instagram absorbed activity into systems where messaging and media sharing lived together. 2Go Interactive struggled to transition. The market it was built for was shrinking, and competing with global giants was no longer realistic. Today, 2Go is a legacy application. It proved that there was a massive demand for social networking in Africa long before global apps arrived. It remains a cultural reference point. For many, 2Go is remembered not as a failed app, but as their first digital social home. 2Go's era quietly ended with absence. Did you ever use this back in the day? Who else remembers this era? Drop what you know in the comments.